What's up guys, and welcome back to the most anticipated PC build of 2018. This is part 2 of the Post Malone beer bongs and Bentley themed custom build. I told you I'm gonna keep this to a 3-parter, so we're gonna get as far as we can get today, and then in the next video you'll see whatever finish work we have to do and delivery to the man himself. I know it looks like I'm drinking a beer, I'm not. Actually, we're gonna try and see if we can't incorporate a beer bong into this. It's my main goal today, but yeah, before we do that, you know, we gotta pay some bills. MSI brings ultra-thin gaming to life with their new GS65 Stealth. The 4.9mm bezel, 144Hz 1080p panel, NVIDIA graphics and 8th gen Intel CPUs make the new GS65 Stealth a true powerhouse with a small footprint. Find out more on how to pre-order by following the link in the description below. So these are the rads I'm going to be using. These are the EK-PE or Coolstream PE rads. I like these because they are nice and thick, they got good FPI. I have used these radiators ever since they launched back in like 2014, and I just really appreciate their cooling capability, their cleanliness, and just, I feel like the square design works so well in so many different builds. But we're gonna go ahead and mock up our radiators here because I need to know how much space I actually have here and obviously up here, and then we have to plan out our tubing run before we can even start to consider how to maybe incorporate a beer can or a possible beer bong in this or whatever. I also, because I don't have the fans like I said I want right now, I'm gonna use just regular old fans to sort of dummy it up in here to just to sort of get myself all situated so I know what the distances are that I'm working with. One other thing we're gonna probably do on this, and it might trigger a lot of people, and that's okay, is soft tubing in this build, because once again, why not? I mean, this build is all over the place, and beer bongs, I mean, how many people do you see using a rigid tubed beer bong? That wouldn't be very fun at parties. See, because I have to route the wires through this channel, although it's a pretty big channel, having only one would be kind of nice, right? So some of the problems with dealing with custom one-off stuff that hasn't been prototyped is sometimes you kind of discover a design flaw. And I just got off the phone with Singularity, and unfortunately this is a design flaw, but it's one that we can easily get past. So the way this all works is, you know, the grill mounts on the front. You've got this plate that I'm trying not to damage the grill here, so it's on this box. You got this plate that mounts to the grill, and it's got these perimeter screws. Problem is you cannot get to these to tighten it back on because you see this channel right here? This channel is what goes here. It sandwiches the manifold. You cannot get these screws through there like this if I mount these down first and try and put it up with the radiator. If I take the plate off, which is the way it's actually meant to go, with the grill still attached to the front, and then you put the radiator plate on there, you cannot get to these back screws because they are even with the manifold. So that is unfortunately one of the one-off problems with this custom grill, because the actual, you know, retail version of the Spectre doesn't have the front mesh to have to deal with. Well, Jay, why don't you just put the screws through the mesh? Well, because the mesh is too fine and we can't get them to fit through. But the thing is, I don't even have these two screws mounted on the inside right now, and it is sturdy. It's not coming apart. So we are gonna just go ahead and leave it like this. I even thought about putting 3M tape on the inside just to be safe. The weight of this with the rad and all that, the 3M tape isn't gonna make a difference, but we have 2 screws on the top and then 2 on the perimeter. It's not gonna move. Not to mention, it's going to be kind of sandwiched in here anyway. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm just gonna go ahead and mock it up this way, but I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about some of the headaches that go along with the super custom one-off stuff, because you have no data, no build data to go off of. And obviously they sent me this case without doing a build in it because I'm doing the build. So I am the prototype on this one, technically, this custom one-off. But if you're buying a Spectre, this isn't something you would have to deal with at all because it doesn't apply whatsoever. You don't have a front mesh in the way. So like I was saying, we can't get to these screws back here because, as you'll see, once I slide this in there, you cannot get to it, like, at all. Because there it goes, it disappeared. Can't see it no more, can't get to it. Darn. There we go. I'll just let the weight of it push it down where it needs to go. This is not going in there all the way, it's hitting on something. Yeah, so now these are hitting on the radiator because they've got these like washers, these black washers that are standing it up. Probably because the screws are too long for the caps they have on the other side. So yeah, it's just not just one thing, it's another so far. You can actually see where they were hitting on the radiator. See, they were hitting there, They were hitting there. These little scratches. Such is the life of custom stuff. Still not lining up perfectly. Fucking hell. Just getting pissed now. I'm gonna have to do what you suggested, which is move those washers, I think. Yeah, this case, although amazing, it's really turned into a pain in the ass because now the radiator's hitting on the top too. It hits on the screws, or for these guys. I think this might be special hardware used specifically for this case, so I don't think that's the retail experience, but if it is, they need to adjust that because obviously this case is built for water cooling, and when your rads don't fit because they're hitting on the things that are assembling it, that's a problem. But once again, I don't think this is a retail experience. So here's the top plate flipped upside down, and what we just realized is we loosened these 4 screws, and we were actually able to pull that L bracket a little farther away, which is all we needed to get our radiator fit. What am I doing wrong here? Why is there all this slack? And we're in business. Yes, bitches. Because now that I put this rad in, I realize this one's not lined up with the fitting that I want it to be perfectly, because I've literally been here now like 3 hours working on just getting the radiators installed in this goddamn thing. I wanted to try and make a custom beer bong thing today, but that's not gonna happen now because I've spent all day just trying to get the freaking radiators in here. And on top of it, they're not even the final fans I'm gonna use. So I've gotta take all the fans and possibly the radiators out again later, because the whole point of this was to mock it up so I could do the beer bong, which I'm not gonna get. I can't even fucking. All right, so we're back to the front radiator and it's apart again. Everything's going wrong today, literally. You see these screws and how they have the spacer like I talked about up here? I think the reason why they do that is because these screws are just slightly too long for these caps to be able to screw down all the way, because as you can see, they are they're a true cap. They're not a pass-through. So I've got 2 options here. Cut the screws shorter, which I don't really want to do. I could just pull up my Dremel and just cut off that much of the screw and be done with it. Or I can try sanding these down just a little bit. Fingers crossed. Alrighty, moment of truth. Still not great. All right, so we just decided we're just gonna cut the screw. Screw it. No pun intended. Because those washers and all, bad idea. I mean, the screw is too long for the cap. I'm sure that's why James used what he did, but we're gonna do this the proper way because it keeps hitting on the rad. So now that these are not sticking up, because I've shortened the length of the screws to be more proper, this should now have no problems just sliding in there. Yeah, look at that. Look at how well it lines up now. It's funny how that works. Loop order in this is a little bit strange because you have these 2 fittings right here next to each other. What we wanted to do today was try and figure out if we could, and these are just some mock-up parts, see if we couldn't make, there's a little more liquid in there, a beer bong looking thing to kind of go like right there and actually plumb the tubing through it. And that's what we're still gonna try and do. So it looks like Bud Light being poured into a beer bong. But the other thing that's still gonna require some work, these wood blocks, yeah, they didn't take into consideration the SLI bridge. So this keeps the SLI bridge from actually being able to mount. So now I've got to actually mark, and I've got to file and modify the wood blocks. There is so much ridiculous custom work needed on this. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just wishing that maybe it didn't need quite as much custom little bits of work to be done. So I'm not gonna be using these black fittings. These are actually Alpha Cool barb fittings with compressions, but I need to order some nickel plated ones because we wanna do nickel throughout the build so it adds more bling to it. I'm gonna mock up the tubing runs here so I can see how much room I have to work with various aspects of this build. Like I said, we would love to be able to fit the whole beer bong theme in here if we can. I'm not sure if that's gonna happen. Now I am gonna be doing obviously in between right here, parallel, but we obviously know that we are just have 2 tubes right there, so I don't have to mock that one up. Okay, so let's just kind of start playing around here. So this is actually the outlet of the pump up there. And I have already done videos showing it doesn't matter what order you do things in. So don't bother trying to have this argument with me. Not today, okay? Not today. what it was like when I lost my virginity.
Clearly enough flow rate right there, dude.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. It's time to go. This is the loop order. This is what I decided on with the soft tubing. I know this is gonna trigger some people, and this entire build is intended to, I guess, trigger people. Pump out to this fitting, down to this GPU, parallel to the next GPU, into the CPU block, out of the CPU block, into this rad, through the rad, out, into this distribution monoblock here, out into this radiator, through the rad, out here, it back into the top of the fill/reservoir built into the manifold, down to the pump. And what I like about this coming out right here is we want to somehow make a thing that goes here and looks like a beer bong. So it can go into the beer can, we would plumb tubing through it, down out of the funnel, then into the GPU. So it looks like you're beer bonging into the GPU. That's what we actually intended on trying to work on today. But with everything that has gone wrong today, we lost all of our time, which means I've really got my work cut out for me, especially since I'm going to Linus Tech Expo this weekend. By the way, if you're gonna be there, come say hi. Punch me in the face, whatever. I don't know. If you're gonna punch me, film it, but I can hit you back. So I'm gonna go now. I'm done. I'm just completely flustered and I wanna go. So Phil, you do your thing. Guys, I'm gonna go. Like, favorite, subscribe, whatever.
Nothing.
Nah, I got nothing. Oh, and on top of it all, I dropped my phone earlier and cracked my screen protector. I mean, that's the kind of day that this has been. I don't understand how things like that happen. Because you don't have a Bentley, bruh.
That's Jay's Twitter, a visual metaphor.
Ow, the pokey part went in my nose. All these Vardar fans. Vardar. Vardar. Hold your nuts while you're screwing? Is that what you're saying? You gotta hold your tool while you're screwing?
No, you gotta hold my nuts with your tool while I'm screwing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.